and welcome to the 17th episode of the Select Characters podcast, where we talk about video games. I'm your host, Sam Yates. Unfortunately, Enrique will not be here this week. However, joining me, trapped in a freezer and desperately trying combinations of items to get the door open, I have a couple of friends with me. Over to my left, desperately trying to combine a chicken leg and a crowbar, Christopher Anderson. How are you?
I'm fine, man. Question.
Answer.
Do you actually take some time during the week to write these? Because they're getting increasingly more wild.
It's mostly on the spot. I had a good three-person one, but Enrique is not here, so next week I will bust that one out. But, you know,
Right.
generally. This time I tried to draw a little bit from video games.
Cool.
Yep, and let's see, also over here, eating an entire wheel of cheese because he swears there's a key inside, Ryan Bildine.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man, good. We're going to escape this freezer, but since we're here and we're cold, you want to talk about what we've been playing and try to stay warm?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it to it.
All right, it's been another great week for video games. Let's talk about what we have been playing, and let's start with you, Chris.
I've been playing Diablo 3. I finally buckled and I saw it in a game shop. So I brought it home with me, playing on the PS4. The port is really well done.
That's what I've
It's
heard.
a constant 60 frames per second, and the controls are pretty great. I've been told that the controls on the PS4 are better than on the PC.
Because you can roll.
Yeah, and less carpal tunnel syndrome, apparently. There's only one thing that I did not realize, because I'm not all that familiar with the Diablo franchise. I have played Diablo 1 and 2, but that was when they first came out, and I was still very young back then, and I haven't played them since. But that game is just all dungeons, all dungeon crawling, all the time, which is fun, but not for like 2-3 hour sessions,
Yeah.
because it can get really repetitive really quickly. Plus, I get the feeling I'm playing on hard because easy was way too easy, but hard is also really easy. I haven't died once. My health never came below 50%. I just stood there in place and just spammed my spell that got mapped to R2. That was enough, basically. But there's like a zillion torment levels above that, so...
Yeah, at least what I hear is that the game starts after that first playthrough. Like, that first playthrough is almost the tutorial, in a way.
Right.
And even though you have outdoor areas and stuff like that, it's still basically an outdoor dungeon.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Even when it changes, even when you're in weird locations and cities and stuff, it's still corridors and corners and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I get the feeling that I'm enjoying this game more because of Heroes of the Storm, because within the first hour, I met Leoric and I met the Butcher.
Yeah.
That made me pretty happy.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Especially seeing like the movesets of the characters in Diablo 3 are basically the same as the ones in Heroes of the Storm. So, you know, you recognize it and it's fun. It's cool. I like it.
That's what I've been looking at for a while. I played it when it first came out with the Real Money Auction House and all the weird stuff that came along with that. And then I think almost just like Diablo 2, like as the game progressed and got older, they've made a lot of really interesting and compelling changes.
Yeah, I couldn't speak for that because I haven't played it at launch, but I've been told that there's been a whole slew of quality of life changes worked into the game now.
Yeah, it was kind of a hot mess.
And apparently it's a lot more fun now.
Good. Anything else?
Apart from Heroes of the Storm, I've been playing City Skylines. We'll talk about that later. I did play a little bit of Lego World, which is out on early access now on Steam. It's basically Minecraft in a Lego world. It's an official Lego game.
Huh.
And it's kind of fun. It looks amazing because of the art style and the lighting. It looks nearly photorealistic. So it's a joy to watch. But a lot of the features are still missing, and the interface is a bit clunky. So I won't be playing that again until it comes out. But there's potential there.
Awesome. Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah, and that was it for me.
All right, cool. How about you, Ryan?
Well, I have class starting tomorrow, actually. So I've been looking at games that I can play on my laptop as opposed to my desktop. So just kind of casual, relaxing type things. And outside of cities, I've been playing this game called, it's either Rus or Ros. It's kind of like this, it's like a little God Sim game, but it's also kind of a puzzle game.
Oh, I can help you with that. It's Roos. It's the Dutch word for giant.
Okay. I can't roll my R, so I'll just say roast. But it's been fun. I've liked it quite a bit. It's really relaxing. And it seems, I've only been playing it for about a week, but it seems like it's got a good amount of depth to it, just because there's a lot of little combinations of things you can not unlock, but I guess discover. So Yeah, it's been pretty fun. And I mean, other than that, I've been playing some Rocket League, just real casual games because I'm like I said, I'm in a cold sweat right now, getting ready for classes to start.
Yeah, intense.
Damn meat space.
All right, man, cool. Well, as for me, obviously Cities. That game was pretty fun this week, and then played a little bit of a game called The Flock, which is an FPS, two-team FPS that's sort of hide and seek ish. There's like an orb of light, and only one person can have it. So you all start out as these flock monsters. One person picks up the orb. They become a different sort of monster, and they can shine the light at people to kill them. It's okay. It's not really mechanically compelling. I guess the main thing about that game is that there's a certain number of deaths, and the last time I checked it was 215 million, but once that number of people die, the game's going off sale, and you won't be able to buy it anymore. So that's their big trick. And overall, it doesn't play really well, but I think that that's maybe not their main intention. I think it's more about the art and the level design and the lighting and stuff like that, because it looks really interesting, but it just doesn't play super great. I considered it more of maybe like an art piece or something like that than, although still a video game, not entirely driven in the way that you would normally play a video game, because the competitive aspect of it doesn't seem to matter as much, and the controls aren't exactly tight. So I think that their focus wasn't really on that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, and I can't wait to see how it pans out, because there's supposed to be some large dramatic conclusion once those 215 million people die. So it'd be interesting to see what they do with it, and hopefully they pull something off that'll make it really interesting and worth like chronicling for the ages, because I don't think anything like it has ever been done before. But it's just kind of a shame to see it underwhelm in the actual gameplay aspects.
Well, just the fact that it's there, that there apparently is, albeit small, but there is a market for these art-type games. So that's good. Like, regardless of it failing or succeeding, I think it's kind of cool that there's a place for games like this to exist.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree with you. Yeah. And I think that it's just, maybe we're not used to it enough that something like that, you know, like you don't come to it with the wrong expectations. Because when I first started playing it, I was like, this is weird. I don't like this. Why not? What's going on? Just, I guess, confused in a way. But when I started to think about it in those terms, it kind of coalesced a little bit with me.
You've been known to power through stuff that you don't immediately like. I mean, you are the only one out of the four of us who finished Hateful Boyfriend. So.
Yeah, well, that's.
Yeah.
I think Enrique might have.
Which,
or I hope
that's
he did.
impressive, by the way, your ability to just freaking power through games.
I like to know. I like to know why. You know, I don't like to just say this is awful and then leave it. I kind of want to put words to it. So,
I'm a little.
That was me.
Little less lenient over here.
Yeah,
Much less.
yeah. If I'm not having fun within 2 hours, then I'm uninstalling that stuff. That might be, you know, it really depends on the game, really. But if the mechanics are really not doing anything for me, and every minute I'm playing that game is a struggle, then yeah, my interest in that wanes pretty quickly.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess it's part because everything had to be made by somebody. So, and it's possible that every game is somebody somewhere's favorite game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some value in everything, whether it's minimal or there's a lot of it. There's normally something there.
Your view is better. I'm not arguing that. Mine's way. If I come to a complicated opening screen, I'm like, no, nice try, guys. Get me on the sequel.
I wouldn't go that far. I'll try it for at least some time until I get my bearings, and then I'll make my ultimate decision. But I'll make that decision a lot quicker if none of the mechanics really gel with me.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those things. Cool. You guys want to move on and talk about some topic?
Yeah.
Let's.
All right, you guys knew it was coming. Let's talk about mobile games. Everybody has a phone in their pocket these days. Mobile games are on the rise, and most of them are, shall we say, less than exciting experiences.
Just terrible. You can call it by its name.
Okay, just terrible experiences. There is trash everywhere. There's also some diamonds in the rough. There are plenty of good mobile games as well, but it's an easy platform to publish on. And there's a lot of people who are maybe not as savvy with the gaming culture who stumble into the mobile phone market. So bad ones abound, to be sure, but there's also good. And what is up with mobile gaming in general?
It seems to be becoming a more core gamer-oriented experience. A lot of big PC games from a couple of years back are now being released on iOS and Android. Like, for instance, the GTA series, the old ones are getting released on Android and iOS now. And apparently they run quite well. So that's apparently a thing now, which is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
who doesn't want to play GTA while you're on the go? Especially GTA San Andreas, which is a fantastic game.
Exactly. Lots of ports from like Super Nintendo consoles and PlayStations too. I know Square Enix has brought a lot of their games over onto the mobile platform.
Yeah, but they also did that Final Fantasy thing that was basically just a vehicle for microtransactions.
Right.
Yeah.
Was that Final Fantasy Heroes or something like that?
I want to say it was Record Keeper, maybe. But the microtransactions in that one weren't terrible, but they were definitely there. Kind of prevalent. But I guess that's one of the main problems, right? Is that phone games are almost always microtransaction driven or ad driven.
I kind of have been driven away from phone games. I used to play them constantly, 5 years ago or so, but I feel like just so many of them are cash grabs that it's like, why even try?
Which ones that you play?
Oh, that I play currently, or that I played that I found out were cash grabs?
Just mobile games in general. Which ones do you enjoy?
I really like tower defense games and anything unique. Like, I've been playing Monument because that game is
Monument Valley.
Yeah,
that game's gorgeous.
Yeah. It's a unique game, so it's really good. But there's so many of them that I start playing and they just ask me for money at some point, and I'm like, it turns me off to the whole thing.
Yeah, and even if you have to pay money up front to play the game, there's more often than not, there's still microtransactions within the game that you just bought.
And if there isn't, there's ads. So
yeah, which I think is unforgivable. You pay money for something. Even console games have got that now. So it would stand to reason I've got that now.
Yeah, it's creeping out.
Yeah, it should stand to reason that mobile games have it as well. But it's just a shame because it sort of takes away. I sort of feel that mobile games can't be taken seriously because of stuff like that.
But yeah, because it's in a regular game, you would get to a certain point and you would be rewarded for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And instead, now you get to that point where you're like, okay, where's my reward? And they say, oh, well, you gotta pay us $1 and then you get the reward.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, why did I just play that whole thing? Why did I do all this stuff to meet these goals? And then now you're telling me there's extra fine print.
On the other hand, you do have games like Hearthstone that are on mobile phones now. And that is a fantastic game with a pretty fair free-to-play system.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that on paper, people want to have these much larger, meatier experiences on their mobile phones, but I don't know if the platform is really designed well for it.
Yeah.
To play like 100-hour RPG or something like that. Those are out there, but the main thing I think that people are missing the boat on is that you need to break it down into manageable chunks. You need to be able to pull it out and make progress in 5 minutes, whether it's a small amount or a large amount of progress.
Yeah.
You can't have a huge swath of time where you need 2 hours to do anything in that game. And that's why a lot of the experiences that we're used to playing don't translate well to the mobile platform.
Yeah, more people seem to go for something like Super Hexagon instead of stuff like GTA.
Yeah, those bite-sized segments. It seems to be more suited to that. And then the problem is that all that other stuff, the microtransactions, sort of naturally fit into a simpler game that's broken up into spans of time.
Yeah.
And it makes it, like you said, it's hard to take it seriously as a platform. And adding to that and sort of exacerbating it and making it even worse is that mobile gaming is the only platform that basically reaches everybody. If you were looking at a family, grandma, mom and dad, they might not be playing Xbox, but they sure as shit have phones. And so you have people who, have no interaction with the world of gaming who still have cell phones. So like it's a way to reach out and access those people. And they're maybe not as inoculated against a lot of these maybe toxic IAP practices and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it makes it a different market altogether. And when you're looking at it that way, how do you bring a good gaming experience into that world? It seems really difficult.
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it?
And so I don't know. I like a lot of games. There's a game for Android called Star Traders that's really good, and there's a lot of good strategy stuff. A lot of it's card based, and I think that maybe lends itself to the bite-sized nature of it. But I don't know. I think it's got potential. I mean, for damn sure, right? But like they got to stop. They have to realize that the cell phone is its own unique thing and stop trying to cram stuff from other elements of gaming into it.
Yeah, because I mean, playing on a cell phone is just not a good. I mean, depending on the game, I'd say for tower defense and stuff, like that's great. I love playing on phones and tablets and stuff. But if I'm gonna play a shooter, it's like it's not right playing a shooter on a phone. You know, like the tactile experience is not what it should be.
Yeah,
and like you said, they're
not.
just trying to shoehorn other genres into this mobile genre because it's worked before. But it's like it's not even enjoyable physically to play these games. Why would we want to play them?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you probably played Fallout Shelter, or one of you might have played it.
I played it a little bit, not a lot.
That's another thing. It's a game that I played religiously for about 2 weeks, and maybe about 2 days of those were me actually having fun, but I kept on playing it. And that's something that seems to be unique to those mobile games that keep you coming back to play more, even though what you're doing has little value.
Yeah, they have a weird inertia to them, don't they?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wonder if that's because there's so many more situations where you pull your phone out than there are when you sit down in front of a computer or sit down in front of your TV. There's so many more times where you just have 2 or 3 minutes and you're going to pull your phone out anyway.
Well, that's obviously going to happen because most of those games, they tend to send you little push notifications like, oh, this is done in your game, or take a look at that. So every time that you take it out your pocket, you start up the game to check that one thing that you know has happened.
And it's right there with your text messages and emails and all your other stuff. It's telling you, hey, come check me out.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing, though, the waiting mechanics in those games. I absolutely hate that because what they tend to do is at the start of the game, when you first install the game, they'll give you a ton of resources and a ton of gold. But by the time that it's all gone, you have to wait for sometimes hours, sometimes days at a time.
Yeah, they get you hooked on it.
Yeah, unless you want to pay, then you can advance. No harm done, no harm, no foul. But if you don't want to pay, then you have to wait for enormous amounts of times.
I know that that's a bad thing, but I actually kind of like it. Like, I've been playing Angry Birds 2 for some reason. I don't know why. I can't describe it. There's something about looking at it, looking at the map and then like sort of planning in your head how you're going to execute. Like that little bit of it seems compelling for some reason, but like I'm glad that there's a timer in that game because I just want to do something for a minute, you know, like I want to do something mindless for a minute and then be done with it. So that game has a life system and like every 30 minutes your lives replenish or whatever. So the 2 times a day that I'm going to pull that out of my phone, it doesn't matter that there's a timer on it. I always have everything I need to just be able to play it for a couple minutes and be done.
A timer on the game is a surefire way to make me uninstall that game pretty quickly.
Yeah. Would you be playing it for like 3 hours in a row if there was no timer though?
I have done in the past. All right, this might be my biggest shame, I think. But a couple of years ago, I still play it every now and then, but there's this game on Android called Fly Dragon. And it's a really stupid 2D endless runner thing.
That game's all right, man. That game is all right. You push it to dive and you let go to come up and you go to the ground and eat all the people. That's not okay. That game's not awful.
So you know it. Here's the thing though. This is why it's my greatest shame. At one point I played it so much that I was the best player in the world for about a month.
Wow. No way. Really?
Yeah. I'm gonna re-download it and check if I'm still in the leaderboards. Probably not, but I was in first place.
We got a celebrity on the podcast today, ladies and gentlemen.
A world champion.
World champion of Fly Dragon, Christopher Anderson.
I'm not sure if I should be proud of that, but then again, why not?
Dude, I'd be proud to be number 1 at anything. It doesn't even matter what it is.
What was your username?
Chris, but instead of an I, it's yes, I know, it's a 1.
Nice.
Pretty terrible.
Nice.
I'm looking right now.
But I like mobile games. I mean, in general, I think that they're just stupid one-off kind of throwaway experiences for the large part. Mm-hmm. And then there's also some very deeper, crunchy, more engaging games on those platforms. And most of the time I find myself juggling a combination of those. Mm-hmm. So when I want to really sit down and play a game, but I don't have access to, you know, the places I normally play, like the PC or console, I'll pick up something like King of Dragon Pass, for example, and sort of work my way through that. And as far as tactics and strategy and stuff, there's a lot of really compelling options. So if you have an amount of time, if you're stuck to the DMV for 2 hours, that's where you go.
Yeah.
But then I also keep, on the other hand, some light stuff that you just jump in, jump out, 30 seconds to a minute, you know, something like that. Mm-hmm. And just, I find that the phone is one of the only places that juggles those different time sort of length experiences in an interesting and manageable way.
Right.
So for me, that's great. Don't mind it a bit.
I'm looking at the leaderboard to see if I still stack up.
Let's see if you've been timed out.
I'm still sixth of the Netherlands.
Wow.
Nice.
Nice work.
Let's see where am I on the global leaderboard. I'm not in the global leaderboards anymore, but I am still in sixth place in Holland.
All
But I
right.
was one at one point, and I played that game religiously. Like every free moment I had, I would whip that thing out and play it. And at one point, I was playing it for hours a day.
Wow.
Yeah, that had no waiting mechanic.
I mean, I used to be that way. I used to be that way too with tower defense games.
So, do you like Clash of Clans, which is arguably the most popular mobile game right now?
I've never played it. I've actively not
I
played
also
it.
haven't played it.
I have friends who get sucked into
I
it.
tried it for a couple days. Yeah, that is one game that does that. Oh, we give you a ton of resources at the start, and 4 hours later, you have to wait for hours upon hours until you can do something.
Yeah, it's tough because you can feel it when you play that game that you know there's some guy in an office with a spreadsheet and like the numbers of people who played for this long before they turned it off versus investment people, and all they're doing is just like finding the point where the lines on the graph intersect, and that's where they dial all the numbers into. So it feels exploitive. It feels like that's their main motive. It's not.
Oh, it is exploitative. That's exploitative. They don't want to make a fun experience. They want to make something that will keep people playing.
Yeah.
Like Fallout Shelter again is one of those games. There are a ton of games that are like Fallout Shelter, but most of those are riddled with microtransactions, and Fallout Shelter is not. But the mechanics are basically the same, and it's in no way fun. After the initial, oh look, this is all right. I'll play some rooms there, and I'll turn my vault into a breeding machine. But it's not all that fun.
Yeah, it does definitely taper off.
Yeah, but you still keep on playing. And if I were a person with more money than sense, a cash shop would probably be something that I would use an awful lot.
Yeah, those are the people they want, the whales, right? That's what they're chasing.
Yeah, the whales. Whale retention, I think they call it, which I think is a despicable way to talk about your customers. But so that's a story for a different time.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of that stuff is just really scary in a way. I mean, like the way that they make games that they consider the non-paying users content for the whales is just bananas. It sort of hurts my brain to think about because, like make video games. I mean, I get it. Like profit is profit, but still make fun video games. There's a company called Kairosoft that makes a lot of simulators and stuff like that. And those games are just fun to play. And they're actually longer experiences too. And I think that that's maybe the way to do it, because you can pick up one of their games and you can put down a couple buildings, you can do a few things and then be done, or you can sit there and actually try and map out how everything should go and play the game for a few hours in a row. It fills both sort of buckets, and I'd like to see more games do that. Ideally, like be good for both kinds of play styles.
The games on the Google Play Store and on the Apple Store now are a far cry from the humble beginnings of mobile gaming, where free usually meant free. And paying up front usually meant getting the entire game without any microtransactions in it.
Oh yeah, and then everything got real weird.
Yeah, Candy Crush happened, and Farmville happened, and now Angry Birds 2 happened, and they're just vehicles for microtransactions, and fun seems to be secondary.
And it happened really fast. Somehow we just ended up here. It is strange. I remember that like a long time ago, games being that way.
It wasn't that long ago. It was 4, maybe 5 years ago when mobile gaming was starting to take off, and it was still sort of fair. Now the adoption rate of mobile phones has skyrocketed over the years. Thus, there's a bigger pool of potential customers, and those companies have seen that they can get away with charging small amounts of money for a wide variety of stuff, and people keep buying it, or else it wouldn't still be there.
I bet that is the absolute largest market of games, is the mobile area.
Yeah.
It's gotta be.
Yeah. Oh, it's
is.
got to be massive.
It is, yep. Because everybody's got a thing. It's not like with consoles or gaming PCs that have a large installed user base, but not everyone has a console or a gaming PC, but everyone's got a smartphone.
I wonder if just that is what made everything so weird and toxic there, because you can do stuff that burns a large portion of your player base but still have enough people left over to make you profitable, and it made them willing to sort of take on these things that are counterintuitive, like we're going to drive all these people away but we're going to get this many, and then it just crept out from there. But I think it's cool. I mean, it's cool to have games in your pocket no matter what, no matter where you go, without having to carry around a Game Boy or a DS or something.
Would just be great if those games were actual fun, like fair fun.
They're out there, but it's definitely the minority, and you have to dig to get those good experiences. You have to like actively pursue them because they don't even show up in the top of the charts. If you just wanted to go to the
Yeah.
store and be like, "Oh, cool, what are the best games out there?" None of those are going to be those kind of experiences. That's kind of a shame. But the massive, massive amount of people who are on cell phones don't know to ask for better.
Or they just don't care.
Or they just don't care. Yep, that's probably a big part of it too.
Recently, we've seen sort of surge in interest in simulator games, and you've got the jokey ones like I Am Bread, for instance, or Surgeon Simulator, and those games seem to be made for Twitch or for YouTube Let's Players. But there's a decent amount of serious simulator games out there as well, and they are really, really popular. And usually, graphically, they're not all that nice. Mechanically, they are quite a bit behind the times, but they are really popular. Why don't the usual objections people seem to have to games like bad graphics or bad gameplay don't not seem to apply to simulator games?
I was thinking, at least in particularly with the DLC stuff, because those games seem to be just riddled with tons and tons of DLC packs.
Yeah, wasn't it Flight Simulator that had like $1,100 worth of DLC packs?
Yeah, I think Train Simulator is probably 2,500. I think something like that.
Jesus.
If you bought it not on sale, And what I think that the reason that they get away with that stuff, including the DLC, is that people come to it for different reasons, and a lot of that stuff is sort of sectioned off into DLC because people have really particular interests in one type of train or one type of truck. And that's like their favorite one. That's like their jam. So basically they're going to buy that one, but they're not going to buy the 1,100 other ones necessarily because they want to put together this very specific package. And I think that they might play on that, which is why they section it off into DLC.
Mm-hmm. And apart from the DLC, why do you think those games tend to be really popular? Because there are a lot of people that play Farming Simulator, God knows why. A lot of people play Train Simulator.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's really close in a lot of ways to the reality of the situation. Yeah. If you get like the proper hardware, flight sticks and driving wheels and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I know a couple of people who are really into Train Simulator. But I do feel like I have to know that those people, they work at the train station during the day and then they go home and play Train Simulator.
For a lot of those people who do that thing, like Farm Simulator, they're a farmer in real life. I think it's just gamifying something that they know, and that's what makes it fun. Right. I mean, imagine like we go to our jobs every day. If your boss somehow turned that into a game, so now it's fun. Like there's more to just doing your job and getting your paycheck. It's going to be more fun. So I think people are drawn to that because it's something comfortable and regular. Like it's something they know, but this time they're getting all the rewards that come with building a game.
Yeah. It's like the same job. You're going through the same motions, but there's a bigger factor of instant gratification, basically.
Yeah.
I think it also gives you some more room to experiment and stuff. If you were that train conductor person, you were sitting there all day like, I wonder what would happen if I flicked these 5 tracks on at the same time. But you can't do that in real life because obviously you kill people or like cause the company money or something like that. But in a video game, there's no limits to just really get wacky with the thing that you sort of do mundanely every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. It kind of defeats the whole point of video games, at least what the point of video games for me is, and that is escapism. Because you do that stuff during the day, you do it during the evening. And I understand what you're saying, but still, it seems weird to me that you'd be so into your job that you want to continue doing that in a digital environment once you're done with doing it in the real world.
I don't think everyone plays games for escapism. Yeah. I mean, say you're like with Train Simulator, say you work on a railroad and you love your job and you want more of it. It's like you can come home and get more of it. And it's more rewarding now because, like we said, the instant gratification. So it's like, why wouldn't you play it, Especially if you're good at it.
Yeah. And a lot of those jobs do have skill to them. Like air traffic controller or train conductor and stuff like that. There's a measurable skill. You can be a good one of those. So maybe that's what draws people who don't even do that as their jobs, because it is something that is tied enough to the real world that if you were a person who doesn't like these high fantasy things and these unrealistic stuff like that, you could still play video games because it has a really solid real world foundation.
Maybe it's just I've never really thought about this, and maybe my opinion is a bit short-sighted. That's more due to me not being very experienced with simulator games. I play one of them. When I say play, like I boot it up like once a year, and that is Euro Truck Simulator 2. That one is a bit cathartic.
Yeah.
Because you can drive around Europe and you can listen while you're driving around. You can listen to internet radio stations from the countries that you're driving around in, which I think is quite cool.
That is neat. That is cool. It's an interesting way. If you think about it, it's like experiencing the actual real world instead of different fantasy lands and stuff like that. Maybe it's got a lot to do with that aspect of realism.
Well, I know what it's like to be a trucker because my dad's one, and I used to go with him on rides, and I did really enjoy it. But for some reason, I'm not really entertained when I play Euro Truck Simulator, but I'm entertained enough to boot it up like once or twice a year.
Do you think that connection causes you to be like that's the one you boot up and not Train Simulator?
No. I bought this one because A, it was on sale, and B, it got a lot of really good reviews. So I thought, all right, got to check this out. Apparently, I'm missing something.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff is just as tricky as, scoring a goal off the wall in Rocket League, or maybe even more tricky in some ways, like parallel parking a semi-truck. It's like a really mundane challenge, but it's still kind of a tough thing to do.
The biggest problem I had with that game was a rookie mistake, admittedly, but I took the boat from Rotterdam to England, to I think it was Harwich or something like that, and I forgot that they drive on the other side of the road there. So I got fines for days for driving on the wrong side of the road.
Oh no. But I'm not sure why. My theory is that they get away with the stuff with having like a little bit maybe less graphics and things like that is because there's so much horsepower being used to actually create a real world simulation that maybe there's not enough left over for those things.
Well, they don't usually simulate an entire world. They just simulate the activity
scenario
itself. Yeah, and there's not really an open world or a simulated world to speak of. In the case of Euro Truck Simulator, it's just a road with some random cars driving around, and that's basically it. Nothing really happens. The only things you do in that game is drive from point A to point B, and there's a little mini game for unloading your stuff, which I've done like once, and I gave up after 30 seconds because I couldn't see the point.
Yeah,
you could just click next, and it would do it for me. But there's no real simulation going on in that game.
Do you think like the physics of the truck, like the handling, and then like based on the weight in the truck, it sways this way and the wind and stuff like that?
No, it's not realistic at all.
None of that
stuff. Look it up on YouTube. It's the physics are really hilarious. Like take a turn a bit too sharp, and well, you're in for a ride, son.
Huh?
It's not realistic at all. A Train Simulator would be realistic because you can just go forward and backwards, don't you?
Yeah.
There's not a lot that you can do wrong.
But that's interesting that it kind of falls short in even being a simulator, in a way. Yeah. At least is something that, as a simulacrum of actual real life, even there it falls a little bit short. That makes it interesting in a totally different way. Like what is the compulsion to play something like that?
I think maybe it's the ability to experiment, like we were saying earlier, the ability to experiment in that familiar environment.
Or maybe it's way simpler than that, and people are just doing it for a laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it could be. It seems like they're so much more popular than that. And it seems like the people who do play them have invested so many hours that if you just thought it was funny, is it still funny 80 hours later? Maybe it is, and it's just not. I don't see it.
Yeah, me neither.
I guess it's possible. But those games are wildly popular with the people who like them. And they do get away with sort of not being these huge graphic showpieces, and I guess obviously with not having super amazing physics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I know that at least with flight simulators, like that might be your only opportunity to have a reasonable approximation of flying some of those planes that are older or don't exist anymore, or you have to go through the whole certification process and all this stuff. Like There are things that you won't have access to in your life without,
Yeah.
this huge amount of time investment and schooling and all this stuff. But you can sit down and like fly an airplane that, you're never going to be able to do. So maybe that is a form of escapism, but you're just escaping into a different part of regular reality that maybe you might not have access to.
Well, I'm wondering, I mean, we've been talking about what makes people want to play these games, but I'm kind of wondering what makes people want them to exist in the first place. Because, I mean, for like a long time through school, I played water polo, and my friends and I always talked about how fun a water polo game would be. But it's like we all went to practice every day and thought about water polo every day. Why would we want a game which is more of that?
Yeah.
And I can't find where the motivation's coming from, other than just out of curiosity, I guess.
Yeah, right. That was my point as well. I don't know where they are coming from, and I certainly don't understand why those games have millions of fans. A lot of them seem very dedicated.
Oh yeah, you see stuff on Reddit sometimes where somebody's gone just insane in a simulator and created something amazing.
Reddit explodes every time that Farm
Yeah.
Simulator goes on sale. I mean, there has to be something about those games that is undeniably good in order for people to keep coming back to those franchises.
It's got to be the way they've gamified that instance or that activity, or made it. Maybe it's really fun and it's just now it's more accessible to people.
Yeah, or it's a compression. Like you don't have to wait a year for your crops to grow.
Yeah.
You don't have to drive an actual 12 hours.
Yeah, instant
Yeah, it
gratification.
gets rid of the
basically.
crappy parts of the.
yeah, all the good bits from being a trucker without all the bad bits.
Yeah, but
Perfect.
that's the thing is you sort of need to solve what the draw is before you can solve why they get away with limiting themselves in certain ways, or why they get away with practices that you wouldn't consider to be good design, right?
Yeah, and I've played them. I've played Euro Truck Simulator, and I enjoyed myself, but I don't know why. And as a result of that, I find it really hard to understand why so many people love them. You know what I mean? It's my own confusion that leads me to being more confused about the entire situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess maybe it's maybe the numbers aren't as high as we think they are. And maybe it's like if you looked at it, it's very popular, but yet the actual amount of people playing maybe aren't so large, but they're just very community driven, so they're very vocal. So you read about people playing them maybe all the time. And then so you could sort of see that even though I think that's strange and I wouldn't play it, it's possible that a certain number of people like that's what they're into. I could see that, because there's so many people out there.
Right, but I'm looking at the Steam page for Euro Truck Simulator 2 now, right?
I'm looking for
'Cause I mean-
farming simulator right now.
It's Euro Truck Simulator 2 has overwhelmingly positive
Yeah.
reviews, and those are based on 39,000 people who have reviewed that game, and it's got a Metacritic score of 79 and a Metacritic user score of 86.
I think that's exactly what it is. That's how they get away with the limited graphics and all the DLC and stuff like that. Because if I want to play a game where I drive a truck, that's the game I love. Where else am I going to be able to do that? If I want to play a game where I am a train conductor, what else is there besides Train Simulator? Like the games that we know in the simulator like business are the heavy hitters. They're like the top of the market. They do that thing the best. So they can get away with so much because they basically have monopoly power in a way. And so that's probably has a lot to do with why they get away with the weird DLC stuff and maybe the design that we wouldn't consider to be as commonplace.
Where are we drawing the line at simulator? Because I mean, you could argue that Farmville is a very bad simulator.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. And obviously like a game like Farmville has way worse graphics than something like Farming Simulator, but people still love that game.
Yeah, would you call it a simulator? I think that is more of a casual kind of thing. Because it's mostly played by people on Facebook and on mobile games, right? If Farmville is a simulator, then Clash of Clans is a simulator as well.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like, where do we draw that line?
I'd probably just sort of look at the actual motive of the game. Like if they're reaching for real life, whether they can grab it or
it'll
not,
be obvious, probably.
but like that's the point that they want. Like
Yeah.
that's their end goal, is to mimic the real world as closely as possible, even if they don't make it there. I would say that that is how you would decide where the line for a simulator is the destination that they're headed towards.
And apparently that destination is really, really fun, because I just looked at Team Spy, and as of 18 minutes ago, 14,000 concurrent players playing Euro Truck Simulator 2 on Steam.
See, that seems like a lot, but that might not be all that many. It might be just enough to support one big-ass game in that genre. And then so there's nobody else to come up and take their sort of crown away. And in that situation, maybe they get away with some things.
I'm looking at the trailers for a bunch of these sim games like right now, and I would play them. Like if they were free, I'd probably pick it up and play it for a little bit.
Right.
And
right? It looks fun, but you don't really know why.
I really think it is just it's the gamification of that. It's like if you do this thing, you're gonna get a reward. And if it was, I mean, no matter the scenario, I think whatever game it was, if they made that work well enough, like you do this thing, you get a reward. That's all our brain cares about. I don't think it cares about what the simulation is.
It's just concerned with the carrot.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, the interest is there. It does factor in. Like if you like a bright orange carrot as to a pale orange carrot, you're going to go for whichever color you like better. But at the end of the day, it's still a carrot on a stick. Games seem to go through phases in terms of what's popular, and it seems that, I don't know, late 90s, early 2000s, there was a big boom with RTSs with StarCraft and Warcraft, and like games like Command and Conquer, and then the whole MMO boom happened, and after MMOs kind of started to fade away, we got the Modern Warfare games, and shooters became really popular. And now in the 2010s, it seems to be MOBAs are dominating the scene. So I'm wondering, what kind of games, what genre do you think is the next one that's gonna be the fad that everyone hops onto? Is it I don't know, maybe survival games? Is it going to be a variation of maybe MOBAs and RTS or something like that? I want to know what your guys' thoughts are on that.
And there's not really a variation with that, isn't it? Because MOBAs are essentially RTSs.
Yeah.
Well, every single one of them except for Smite, which is a third-person thing.
It's like a concentrated, very micromanagey.
Yeah. And I think that by
RTS.
now the survival bubble has sort of burst. Because now when someone brings up survival games, most people just roll their eyes and sigh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that there were two recently that didn't exactly catapult themselves into the atmosphere. I think that couch co-op got real hot for a second there, and then I think survival games got real big for a little bit, but neither of them really sort of penetrated further enough to become that next big thing like the ones you mentioned.
I don't fully agree, because DayZ, when it first came out, when the mod came out, was huge, and it was huge for a very, very long time in games industry standards.
Yeah, but that was only one game. That wasn't. I wouldn't compare the DayZ thing to like World of Warcraft and all of them MMOs that spawned off of that.
Why not? Because it did inspire a whole metric shit ton of survival games.
Because WoW was infinitely more successful than any survival game has been, and then it also spawned a lot of very successful MMOs. And DayZ was, I mean, for survival games, DayZ was very successful, but I don't think it, I mean, obviously it wasn't as successful as WoW, and then the offshoots from DayZ have not been as successful as a game like Guild Wars. So I just think it's too small of a scale.
You could say DayZ was the next big medium thing, or the next medium big thing, something like that. I feel like the next thing has got to be something with VR. I don't know what exactly, but it seems like that radical of a format shift, if they pull it off and if they bring the right experiences to that, then that has got to be the next big thing. Because what I see, at least in trends of based on the examples you were talking about before, is that it came with a genre shift, but the formats have always been the same through all those iterations. Now we're changing the format. Like, we're changing the way you play those games, so the potential is there for some sort of VR experience to become that next big thing.
Yeah, I guess that depends on how accessible VR is. If an Oculus Rift is going to be $1,000, not everyone's going to have it. But if they really lower that price point to make it competitive with consoles,
yeah, that's a good point too.
At one point, that's probably going to happen. As technology gets older, it gets cheaper to make. Usually, so there's probably going to be a point where normal people like you and I don't have to shell out an enormous amount of money to get a kit. But it's not quite there yet. I will say that it's building up to a crescendo, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, so I guess VR does actually have a few challenges standing in its way of being.
I'm just wondering with VR, what new genre will we see? Because if you're playing an FPS with a VR headset on, it's still an FPS.
I think a genre that seems to be tailor-made for VR is going to be horror game. Because horror is perfect for something like that. I will never play it because I'm not one for horror at all. I'm not the manliest man that ever manlied.
I'm in that boat. I do not like horror games.
Yeah, exactly. Like I still have flashbacks to PT, you know. So
Yeah.
But that genre seems to be a perfect fit for VR because VR is all about getting immersed in something. So it could be one of two things: either it's horror or it's those artful video games.
Maybe with VR we'll see better horror games that don't rely on jump scares. Because if the whole purpose of VR is to like really bring you into this environment, you can do a whole lot more. If somebody, if you're a developer, you can do a whole lot more if somebody really feels like they're in that environment rather than staring at a screen. Because I think one of the downfalls of a horror game is if you just take a minute and look off of your screen, you're like, okay, I'm perfectly safe and nothing that can pop up can hurt me. But VR, you kind of get that removed.
What if the next big thing in gaming is not necessarily a traditional game? I don't know if you've heard of Neil Stevenson. He's a writer. Makes cyberpunk novels. He's got a novel called Snow Crash. Yeah, they've got a form of internet there called what is it? The metaverse, I think it's called. And you jack into that by putting on a VR headset. So what if the next big thing in gaming is going to be a completely realized virtual world where people will just jack into?
And not even technically. Like, not doing typical gamey stuff, but just the fact that you could interact in, like, that new environment.
So, what's it called? The Mega Man game. Battle
Network.
Was it? Battle Network? Yeah.
Oh, the GBA games, right?
That's what I'm thinking of. That's a great
those
game.
were awesome.
But, like, a real-life version of that.
Yeah,
I'll buy that.
Could be.
I'd buy it. Shoot, those games were so fun.
Yeah, but that would give you a different platform. I guess especially if you look at Facebook getting into the Oculus, that seems kind of likely in a way. And just by virtue of bringing in more people, it becomes a bigger thing. So yeah, it could be.
I'm wondering, so if we set VR aside, what do you think is like the next traditional boom in gaming? Because I mean, if VR really takes off, that doesn't mean traditional games are gonna go away.
Well,
From my perspective, I think something basic that developers give us, and then people can mod it to hell. And you don't have to be a modder to create content. I think if the devs give us like a really good sandbox, and then give, I guess, basic modding tools to the everyday player, I think that if that's even possible, I think it would be the next just huge thing. Because I think the players are going to be more creative than the developers.
Right. Yeah, that's
I think I've seen that with pretty much any game, even bad games I've played. The mods are so fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Like Battle for Middle-earth 2 was a crappy game, but some of the mods were extremely fun, and I played that game until the servers went down on mods. I don't think I could count the number of times I played an actual Battle for Middle-earth 2 round on like two hands.
I had such high hopes for that game, especially since the first one was so good.
Yeah, the first one was good.
What could be even more interesting than that would be, instead of a game with incredibly diverse mod support and easy access, would be if we see these development studios like Unity become so user friendly that they basically are that. Like, if it's so easy to make a video game that you don't need even that basic framework of I buy this game and then I mod it. Like, what if using something like Unity is basically just like making a brand new video game and it's easy and anybody can do it? It seems like
I don't think that's going to happen.
It seems like we're getting closer and closer to that, though, because they're trying to make that stuff even more user-friendly with every iteration.
I don't think that's going to be the next big thing. Maybe somewhere down the line, not the very distant future, but certainly not the not too distant
future. Right, yeah, that's true. That's true. That would be like the next big thing.
Yeah, in the future, everybody will be a game dev, basically. But I think with the way that the MOBA genre is blowing up now, it's so incredibly large now, and it's probably going to be very large for the foreseeable future. I mean, it's still growing. So I think that the next big thing might very well be an offshoot of the MOBA genre. And well, you could argue that an offshoot of the MOBA genre would just be a traditional RTS, but something different.
Well, yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be. It could just be something unique that involves the MOBA format.
Yeah, maybe it's just old genres with new tech.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to guess what's coming.
Well, yeah, of course, but we can think about what would be cool.
Well, I think it's going to be easier to answer. Hopefully next year, maybe the year after that, when No Man's Sky gets released. Because if that turns out to be the thing that they promise it to be, then random generation is going to take off in a very huge way.
I was gonna say when we were talking about VR stuff, I think exploration games. If they can. Because I'm not a huge, I know you really like them, Chris, but I'm not a huge exploration person. But if they added like a little something extra into exploration, I would totally be on that boat. Like maybe just give more of an incentive to exploring than just saying, oh, hey, that's cool, you know?
Yeah. If procedural generation goes the way that it's going and becomes more and more refined, they'll be able to add in more of those sort of game type elements to it.
I'm just thinking of maybe in a procedurally generated world, maybe as you explore, there's like more chances at rare loot or different enemies or something like that.
Or you'll just have a game. I mean, just a game that you like playing mechanically that will be procedurally generated out into infinite content in a way that remains interesting. Because that's the void, right? Because you have carefully created, designed levels by a person that give this very interesting experience, and then you have procedurally generated random levels that often can't give the same quality of experience because, you know, by their nature they're random. But if those two things sort of come together and find a middle ground that makes sense, there's really no stopping it. Like the possibilities are almost endless.
You know what? I'm gonna go out and say that's what I think. It'll be something procedurally generated related. That'll be the next thing.
Yeah. A procedurally generated horror RTS.
Can you imagine?
VR.
Yeah,
I'll play that.
Like a procedurally generated MMO or FPS or something like that, where whatever gets generated stays, but if you keep pushing the edges of the map, it keeps going out, and maybe it gets reset every 6 months or something like that. You know, just something crazy.
Yeah, that world could go on
always
forever.
gives you something new, and it doesn't have to be balanced or anything, because it's like if you don't like this one area, you can just move somewhere else.
It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I like new stuff. So I think that we are closer. It's more likely we'll find the next big thing now than it ever was before, because just by virtue of how many games are coming out, it's possible.
And by how much?
Some indie dev with an amazing idea is going to make his game, and then somebody's going to pick it up and expand on that concept, and then they're going to make their game, and then you know, because that's how it kind of works. Like you see, like they take MOBA and they say, all right, we're going to do MOBA, but we're going to do it this way. And then MOBA gets a little bit bigger. So since there's so many smaller development studios out there making games with sort of less financial risk, like they can really explore the space and they can really try new and interesting stuff, even if it doesn't necessarily work. Somebody will pick up on that, they'll expand on it, and then it'll just go all the way up until you'll have this huge monumental big budget title based on those concepts, and that's going to be pretty cool.
Oh man, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm pretty much convinced at this point that the person that is going to revolutionize gaming as we know it now is probably already working on that stuff.
I could see that.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, or some, you know, like some shadow of it or some iteration of it is going to be the thing that blows everybody's minds. Yeah. And with more people coming to it, the probability's there. We just got to wait for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking random generation is going to be the biggest thing soon-ish.
Yeah, and especially, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking of the best of too many worlds, but like something randomly generated, and that includes a competitive element, because competitive games have obviously exploded. But if you could make something that was, I mean, competitive.
Do you think those are mutually exclusive though? Because like for competitive, you need like a framework. You need things to be the same so that we have a measuring stick so that we can compare two people to each other.
Yeah, but I don't know.
If you don't have a level playing field,
well, yeah,
you can't really be competitive.
In that instance, I mean, my mind jumps to the ability to adapt to any situation is going to be a virtue of your team.
Oh, I see.
And it's not like one team is always going to get the short end of the stick. It's like it's random.
Yeah, you play enough matches Eventually that stuff's going to shake out, and it becomes who is more flexible, who is more adaptable, who can handle these changing circumstances better. That would be a compelling competition, I think.
And that would also that would also please me, because it would kind of get rid of any meta.
Yeah,
because
that's a fact.
It's different every time. You got to know. I mean, if it's a procedurally generated shooter, you have to adapt to that situation. You can't go with the standard whatever you're gonna do. You know?
Yeah, no fixed.
It's a bit too pie in the sky for me, I think.
Yeah,
it's impossible to be a very competitive game without a meta, because that is part of the competition. But the way that you make it sound, I'd pre-order Minecraft Global Offensive.
yeah.
I could feel that. I mean, as somebody who like picks things up really quickly, but never achieves a like maximum level of things. Like I can go from 1 to 5 really fast, but I never get higher than an 8. You know, like I have a low top cap, but I can get there pretty quick. Something like that would be really fun to play. That's part of actually what I like the most about video games, is being able to just ramp into them real quick. So that.
See, we're going to do an episode about this one day, because I just want to have a conversation with you about that specific topic.
What, like
you pick up games eerily fast, really fast, because we've been playing City Skylines since Sunday, and on Monday I believe you said, "All right, I got this," and sort of starting to get bored now. I said, "What? You've been playing it for?"
Yeah. So we were talking to, or I was talking to you about just certain things, and you were. I should probably say this for the next discussion, but you were just saying like you got to the point in the game that everything just kind of mellowed out, and I was like, what the hell is he talking about? And then I got there like 2 days later, and I was like, man, Sam's way faster at games than I am.
And he's been doing that consistently with every game that we've played so far. So.
Yeah, but like I said, my top end is lower than I think a lot of people's is. But that is what, if you could meld that experience, like if a game could give you that every time you sat down to play it, that would be my ideal game. That'd be the next big thing for me. I don't know if it would sort of branch out enough to be the big thing, like the general populace, you know, this is the game everybody's playing, but I'd sure love it.
Yeah, we'll see. And the future is swiftly approaching.
And bright. The future is swiftly approaching and very, very bright. Yeah,
it's never been a better time to be a game enthusiast.
True story. All right, so once again, we've reached the part of the podcast where we talk about our play-along book club adventures. Still don't have a good name for it. We're working on it. If you have a suggestion, if you have a suggestion, send it to us. Like we said last week, we're going to be moving this segment on to YouTube, and if you're listening to this, you can watch that right now. We're uploading them at exactly the same time. If you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, you can click the annotation. It'll take you to that video for our discussion of City Skylines. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. And for next week, Ryan, what are we going to be playing?
I think I've decided after playing it a bunch this week, we're going to play, how do you say it, Chris? Rose?
Yeah, Rose.
Rose. That's what we're going to be playing.
Just be glad that word doesn't have the Dutch G in there. You'd have a much worse time, because our G is...
Well, we're going to
try that.
We're going to be playing Rose.
Okay. Fortunately, to play it with us, you don't have to pronounce it. You just have to play it. So jump on, play that game with us. If you want to send us your thoughts, that's selectcharacters@gmail.com, or I guess YouTube comments now, so that's pretty cool. Let us know what you think. Let us know how you feel about the game, and we'll be discussing that in a YouTube video next week. And that will bring us to the end of episode 17 of the Select Characters podcast, and I have a special message for you. Yes, you, right there. Pointing at your chest and looking confused. Yes, you driving your car. Yes, you chopping your carrots and you vacuuming your living room while you listen to podcasts. We want you to get in touch with us. Send us an email to selectcharacters@gmail.com. Suggest some topics and give us your thoughts on our weekly play-along series. Also, you can find us online on Facebook and Twitter. We are around, we are listening, and we do want to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great week.